this is Sandy and Mike Quast from TheRealParents.com. Today we're here to speak with Dr. Robert Kandarjian. He's a chiropractic doctor, and he has the Remedy Center here in Morristown, also a facility in New York City. And we're going to talk about some child behavioral issues, and we have one of his past patients here, Deb Peterson. So would you like to tell us a little bit about how you met each other?
Sure. Well, my son was really the past patient. I guess I was too. When my son was 7, he was diagnosed with severe Tourette syndrome. And I did the traditional medical route with everything, therapies, medicines. I had to top people, and basically the tics would stop for a little bit, but then they just came back, even through the medicine. And I became desperate, basically. I didn't know how to help my son. And a friend led me to Dr. Kandarjian here. Not only is he a chiropractor, but he also does intuitive energy healing, which at the time I had no idea what that was. But I really didn't care, honestly. If it was something that could help my son, I figured, let me go try it. So I went with my son, and he had one appointment, and the second appointment, he actually told me to get on the table, that now it was my turn.
And you're wondering, wait, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I said, I don't need, what am I getting healed for? Thinking, just in the physical, and not realizing that what Dr. Kandarjian does is really take a holistic approach, and he looks at, the whole person, actually the whole family in the case of, with the children. He likes to work with the parents, and I guess he can explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so how does that work in your practice? You work with the parents as well as the children?
Yes, I mean, when parents bring the children to me, I find that in most cases it's not going to be easy to correct the child unless the parents are on the same page, unless the child's environment is harmonious. We're not here blaming parents, it's just parents are doing the best they can do, but sometimes they may not always know what the right thing is for that child because of their own personal stresses. And so what I try to do is I try to bring to their attention the stresses that are affecting them, which in turn will affect the child. And also very importantly, I want to get the parents on the same page. Now, sometimes they may need psychological counseling for that, or they may need to read some books, some self-help books that could guide them into moving towards the same page. So it's really, really important to get the parents on the same page. And the other thing I would like to add is what I really focus on teaching the parents is to get quiet and to start listening to their inner voices, especially the moms, because I'm going to assume that the mom is the person who's spending the most time with the child.
Right.
So more than the dad. So it's really important for the mom to be very still and very much in touch with her inner voice rather than her left brain that's active and that's overthinking. So when we can have parents that are in their stillness and in their calmness, even though there are stresses out there, and that they are a support for each other as husband and wife, and that they are completely each other's comfort, then we can move the child into higher ground. If we don't have that, it's going to be very difficult to move the child to higher ground. To me, that's the foundation.
Right, and that's probably interesting because most parents don't focus on themselves. They think there's a problem with their child. Here, fix my child. And in reality, you're saying it's the whole big picture.
And yes, and also they don't focus on the marriage. They don't.
Right.
They don't reflect on the fact that the stresses in the disharmony of the relationship. And think of something really positive, right? And what happens to the electricity here? And then think of something negative, and what happens to and they change.
Right.
And children are very sensitive to this electricity. As we get older, we lose that sensitivity. But because they're sensitive, so if the parent is in a negative state, even if she's not speaking about it, or even if he's not speaking about it or putting on a happy face, the child feels it.
Right. Well,
as was the case with my son.
Right.
I guess quite
yes.
to the extreme. So
what we needed to do with Debbie and her son was and her husband and Debbie's husband was to make sure that Debbie and her husband had the minimal amount of stresses in their house, and whatever stresses there were, they were addressing it. They were talking about it. They weren't just in their routine. again,
We have lots of books to read too.
yes, I mean, again, it's very important to point out that it's not about telling the parent you're doing something wrong or blaming the parent. It's simply about giving them some tools where they can minimize the stresses in their lives, and really come to the same page. Because I always say, if you have 4 kids, before there was 4, there was 2. So always go back to the 2. That's the foundation.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. So you offer parents some great techniques to use. Recommend some books they could do.
Yeah, I mean, books by psychologists that I have read who I respect, and sometimes they may need to do some kind of a couples weekend just to kind of reconnect, because we get lost in the routine of things, especially in the Western culture where, you know, the stresses are quite high. And parents mean well, but we do get lost in the routine of our daily life that tends to move us away from our inner voice and from each other.
Right, now that's interesting because we recently did an interview with a marriage expert. He's down in Baltimore, and his name's Mort Fertel. Yeah. And he actually talks about, he's got 4 children, a set of triplets is one of his gang there, and they had some challenges when they were, you know, earlier on in their marriage. They had actually lost a few kids after being born, very shortly after birth. And so he actually turned his life around by putting his marriage as a main focus and creating that harmony in his life. Right. And so we recently did an interview with him as well, and it sounds like you're on the same track as far as like the harmony in the home.
Isn't it obvious though? I mean, it's like it's such
it is once you tell us it's obvious. Right, that's exactly it.
I really think that stresses that exists between adults, in this case, since we're talking about children, you know, between husbands and wives or between partners who are raising children, the stresses that exist between adults leak into everything.
Right.
They leak into the workplace that the man is taking with him. It affects work, it affects money, it affects the children. You know, we must reduce the stresses in marriages and in partnerships between the adults to make sure that everything else can be supported and nurtured.
Right.
I mean, it's just common sense.
It's common sense, but it's so common sense in life, you just don't even stop to think about it.
Yeah, that's why I do get parents who bring me their children and say, what can you do for my kid? And most of the time, you know, I would say 9 times out of 10, I ask the parent, could you please have the child wait outside? I want to talk to you and to your husband or to your partner, and let's just see what's going on. And usually they're surprised, you know?
Well, right.
Because when I want to take a case history without the child in the room, initially they're a little surprised with that, but then when I start putting the pieces together for them, then they understand.
As you were, right?
Right, exactly.
I want to talk to you.
Right, and the end of my story is a good one, an excellent one. He actually cured my son completely of Tourette syndrome. There's no medicine, there's no therapies, and apparently no medical cure, but you know, I live with it every day, and my son's almost 14 now, so yeah, it's been a few years. And I guess the rest of the story is that I was so, I don't know what the word is, enthralled, or just, I couldn't believe that this worked. So I ended up leaving my job, going to work for Dr. Kendarjian, because I really wanted to get the word out about all these different alternative modalities, especially his. And then it led me to starting my wellness galas, which bring all of them together. And
now you do those, you know, throughout New Jersey, and do you go?
Yes.
And so, what is your website that if someone wants to get some information about the wellness gala?
It's www.wellnessgala.com.
Wellnessgala.com. Okay.
Right.
And now the doctor's website. What is your website for more information?
drrobertheels.com.
So drrobertheels.com, but drrobertheels.com. Right. Excellent.
It also has. You can also do drrobertkendarjian.com, which is my license.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So for more information about Dr. Robert's business, go to drrobertheels.com. And for more information about the event galas, your website again?
Wellnessgala.com. And also Dr. Kendarjian's in all my galas. We work together on many things. So
okay, well thank you so much. We appreciate your expertise.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for
having us.
And we'll see you next time on TheRealParents.com.
Great.